Picked off by Jordan Fuller. Stafford for Kupp. Right on cue. Into the end zone. Rams on the board for the touchdown. There's Cooper Kupp for the first down. Spinning his way inside the 10 shell. Will burrow in for the touchdown. Huntley looking in that direction. Trying to navigate and brought down by Aaron Donald and Leonard Floyd. On fourth down, Stafford slings. Beckham holds on. End zone. Beckham held on. Touchdown. Rams lead.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 4 of the East Coast Rams podcast. I am your co-host Ashton Spencer here with my other co-host Zach Mayer, and we have a special guest, Rams House, great YouTube content creator, awesome videos. Go subscribe to him and check out his content. How are you doing, David?
I appreciate you. I'm doing really well. Obviously, it's good to be watching this Rams winning streak compared to what was happening in November. And as always, I love talking Rams with my fellow Rams fans. So thank you guys for having me on.
Mm-hmm. So let's kind of dig into our first quarter and just initial game reactions. It was a very slow first start. Stafford ends up getting 2 interceptions. The Ravens just come off with a pick 6 and 2 field goals. What are some of your guys' initial reactions to that first half and another slow Rams start? It's just starting to become a big theme, and I feel like against better teams, we won't be able to pull the rabbit out of the hat again. I mean, we're gonna run out of rabbits eventually.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Like, if we're playing some better teams down the stretch, which we will be coming into the postseason, this needs to be cleaned up because we can't just rely on our defense to keep us in the games. I think our defense has been playing really well since that 49ers loss that we took earlier in the season. They've been just doing an outstanding job, in my opinion, compared to where they were at previously. And so I think for the Rams, just a big thing is getting guys in rhythm, getting guys motivated and excited early, and having a good balance on offense will be good and key, especially if you get it going in the first quarter where you have a good rhythm, a good balance of everything going. That gives the whole team confidence. It gives Stafford confidence. It gives our receivers confidence. Everybody has a rise in their confidence, and getting off to that start that we need will really help us benefit, and it will benefit in the later quarters, in my opinion. So getting that rhythm going, getting some quick stuff, and then you can start getting into a bunch of the stuff that we can do well and just not turn over the football. And I think that all starts with just how you start getting in that rhythm.
Yeah, I agree. We need to get back to the first 3 games of the season where the Rams were coming out on fire and in the beginning of the game, because we can see when the Rams don't have any turnovers, they're dominant. It's when they start turning the ball over, that's when the teams keep scoring the points. You go back to any of these games, you go back to this game where, you had the immediate pick 6. So that's at least 7 points that you gave them. But every turnover was at least 3 points. So I think 16 of the turnover or the points that the Ravens had were all from the turnovers that came through. That happened in Tennessee, that happened with Arizona. Like all these games that you either were close or we lost, it was our own doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I completely agree with that. We can't hurt ourselves. We can't shoot ourselves in the foot, especially when you start playing some better teams. Turnovers will come back to bite you, and you can't just rely on your defense.
Yeah, I mean, these defenses have come up with a reason or a way to stop us, and that's taking the ball away from us. If we're 3 and out or we get that turnover and we lose that time of possession game, keeping our offense off the field, that's not good news. That means Cooper Kupp isn't on the field. That Stafford's not on the field. OBJ is not on the field. Like our players who are are there and are getting paid to make big plays and to get the ball down the field. If you keep them off the field, then that your chances are slim to get points, especially in this high turnover game that we're playing these days.
Oh yeah, and
Yeah,
I in my preview for this game versus the 49ers, I was talking about how if we turn the ball over to the 49ers, we'll most likely lose, because I think for a team like them, they want to take away the ball and hog the ball and just make sure that you don't have enough time to touch the ball, and so they want to control the time possession. I think that turning the ball over is going to decide this next game, and that's what we've gotten lucky that it hasn't decided the past games, but for sure we got to find a way to limit those turnovers.
mm-hmm. I definitely agree with you guys. It's one of those things where we play into the 49ers' hands when, we're running the ball effectively, and then we choose to throw it like two times in a row, and then that third time we do deep bomb. And I feel like McVay at points in time, he just gets clouded with wanting to make that big splashy play when
Mhm.
we need to just take what the defense is giving us. And that's what the 49ers kind of play upon. They just keep on making you wait and get every yard very hardly. And then when you just are like, okay, I'll just shoot for a 40, 50 yard bomb, that's when they
Mhm.
just get that interception or they get that fumble because you're holding back there and you can't see someone open.
For sure.
And it's buying us especially later on in the game, especially against the 49ers. Now the Ravens, I think big props to our defense is our run defense has gotten significantly better since that 49ers game.
Mhm.
We have been very hard to run on. Now there's caveats to that, right? We didn't play
Mhm.
Lamar Jackson in this game, and we didn't play against Dalvin Cook last week. So I don't know how they're going to do when a fully healthy like running team like 49ers face them now. Now, adding Von Miller, I think, has helped out a lot, especially since he's fully integrated. And we started seeing the second half that really play into effect. You saw Von Miller being comfortable in the system now. He got the game winning
Mhm.
sack. Uh, it's just really good work on defense. They kept us in it, and in my eyes, the defense of Raheem Morris deserves a lot of credit. I feel like his scheme is starting to work out, and this proved it, holding this Baltimore team to only 4 field goals.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think, especially when your offense is putting your defense in bad positions, giving them good field position, giving them more possessions than they should be, or right as the defense gets off the field and we turn it over, they get it back. Those are not easy situations to win in, and I think that for the defense, they've definitely impressed me, especially down this stretch.
Mhm.
And
So
and
the
and well,
Rams
the
and the
No,
oh,
sorry. The only thing
sorry.
I was going to say was at the end of the half. I mean, it's when we needed it we needed it the most. Our defense pulled in and
Hmm.
got that interception just so that we got points on the board. You know, you don't want to go into halftime, down 13 points. You want to go in with some momentum, and I think that really pulled the offense back in it, and got their mind back in the game.
Mhm. Yeah, very questionable play calling on the Ravens' point of view when you're having a really successful drive. You're playing nickel and diming us like a lot of teams have found success doing to us. Then you
Hmm.
just throw a random deep bomb with your backup QB. It was very curious. I don't see why they did it. It ends up getting picked off, and the Rams come back and get a touchdown. And let's kind of deep dive more into the second quarter where you really saw um basically after Stafford has his fumble, even during that drive, really good drive, you started to see the Rams actually be successful with pushing down the ball down the field and Stafford really taking care of the football after that fumble.
Yeah, I think again it goes back into the rhythm and the adjustments that you have to make, especially on the offensive side. I think we began to see that one thing that really bothered me about that when we ended up fumbling the ball in the second half was um, it was just like we were having success with running the ball, pounding the rock with Sony Michelle, and then using play actions, then kind of slanting guys across the field. But whenever we ended up making that turnover, what bothered me was on, I believe it was a third down when he fumbled, but I could be wrong. Um, we went right into the spread set, which we saw in the month of November, how that was not really successful for us. There was pressure in our face. That just wasn't our best way of doing it. It's not to say that we have to eliminate it, but we didn't have much success with it. And I thought with us running the football as well as we were, how balanced we looked on that drive coming out of the half, I thought that, that was a good chance for us to score. But the spread set did bother me, but I liked seeing the glimpse of us starting to get back into that rhythm, get back into what we do best.
Yeah, for that fumble.
Yeah, it was a first and 10 at the Baltimore 11 and
Gotcha.
he fumbled it at the 20.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we were in the red zone, but the one thing that I did see that I liked from that play was, he potentially could have got sacks, a couple seconds earlier, but he got out of that sack, and that's when he was trying to make a play.
Hmm.
So I'm glad he's being mobile. I feel like he's so stuck in that pocket, and
Hmm.
when he needs to make sure if he sees things like starting to fall apart, he needs to start moving. I'll be glad if he takes a sack as long as he doesn't intercept the ball or if he doesn't, fumble it. But, you know, being aware that he may need to use his legs um, needs to be in the forefront of his mind going forward.
Well, I'll just say to that, I personally think if he had no interceptions up to that point and had a clean game, I wouldn't have had issue with him trying to make that play with a fumble. But you have to look at it in the context of you already have two interceptions. You really need to take care of the ball because that's 3 points the Rams could have had if he doesn't fumble that away, and
Hmm.
you're putting your defense again out on the field after a long first half. And I feel like Stafford just has to be more of a veteran. Those are stupid, not stupid, but like silly, trying to go extra effort plays that we just saw Goff do all the time and never
Mhm.
really worked out for him. For Stafford, it definitely does work out sometimes, but given the context of this game, I felt like he should have just taken that sack instead of risking the fumble.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, for
it's
sure.
hard. It's hard when you're in the moment. When you're the QB
Mhm.
and you get out of a tackle or you feel like you're getting out of it, that you want to make that next play. So it's a tough decision a quarterback's in.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah, so after that fumble, Ravens go get a field goal. Both Ravens and Rams trade punts. And then within, I believe, 11 minutes, or sorry, within 56 seconds left in the third quarter, the Rams have a clutch 7 play drive, 55 yards, and they get a touchdown by Sony Michelle. uh like you said earlier, Sony Michelle running the rock hard. I don't know how you feel about this, Rams house, but he has been very clutch. His
Mhm.
receiving ability could be a little bit better. He had some
Mhm.
drop passes there, but when it comes running the rock, he has been very, very good for us. Very hard runner. He always lands forward. Just can't say enough. I think he's trying to earn his way into being our second running back when Cam Akers comes back next year.
Oh yeah, I love Sony Michelle, and I was kind of getting tired of like nothing against him, but I was getting a little bit tired of Henderson. Um, Before like obviously he got injured again and everything like that. But like in my opinion, he wasn't working that well for our offense this year. Like when we were making our adjustments, and he was the type of guy who I feel like, yeah, he has the home run threat ability, I guess, is what a lot of people say about him. But like to me, he's not a guy who will make somebody miss a lot of the times, kind of like Akers did. And he's not really the biggest power back type of guy. Like I remember in the Seahawks game when we threw it to him, and he just got popped by their linebacker. Like he's not really a guy who's impressed me a ton this season. So I think the switch to Michelle has really helped us because not even on plays where he's only getting like four, like two, like 3, 4 yards. Like I think the power that he's establishing and what he's showing to the defense is a threat, and it tires them out. It wears them out, and I honestly didn't think we were getting that from Henderson. Again, nothing against him. I think it can be used in some different ways, but I really like what Michelle's bringing to this offense.
Yeah, I think with Henderson, I think he was doing okay with pass blocking,
Hmm.
and he was a good receiver. If you're having
Yeah.
full out wideouts, he was a really good receiver. And we've seen Michelle. He's been dropping a couple passes. Some of them weren't so great of a pass, but he's been dropping a lot more than I think he should. But you're exactly right. If he was in the same position Sony Michelle's in, you may get 1 or 2 yards, but Michelle knows how to push himself
Hmm.
forward to get the 3 to 4, even 5 yards. And he's that kind of running back where you could have your full offensive line pushing that guy forward, and he's just going to keep on grinding.
Hmm.
Definitely.
I think it always comes down to who do you trust more on a 4th and 1 to get the ball through the defensive line? Do you trust Henderson or Michelle? And I just trust Michelle more, at least just to power through there. I feel like Henderson is really good once he gets an open hole, breaking through the second level. But that's the thing, is you're not always going to have an open hole, and that's why Akers got put over him last year, is he wasn't able to get past that first line if it wasn't open.
Yeah, for sure.
So after the Rams punch in that touchdown with Sony Michel, Ravens counter with a field goal. It's 14-19. And then the biggest drive of this game, and this drive was crazy to watch because I was just nervous to all heck at this game, guys.
Because
Like,
you were there.
I
You were
was
there,
just like,
Ashton.
yeah, I was there. I was in the end zone they were pushing to, and it felt like every possession was coming down to the last play. So the Rams end up pushing the ball nine plays, 75 yards. Coleman kind of ending with, honestly, some of the best catches we've seen this year by OBJ. Tell me if you guys disagree with that.
Well, I mean, like, I think, yeah, I'm right with you. I was very nervous, especially when it looked like Higbee fumbled on that drive. I was like, "Are you kidding me? He fumbled." But luckily that was overturned. It was definitely a nerve-wracking drive, and I think the big thing for Odell was he came in clutch when we needed him to, and that was, we brought him in for a reason. And whether he's having 100-yard games or whatever like that, it doesn't really matter. It's really about coming in clutch in the moments. And I think that fourth down catch was as big of a catch as you could have had. And especially when you don't know if the defender is just going to pop you from behind, he made sure he was ahead of the sticks. And then obviously, I think the big thing that stood out to me on his touchdown was just the awareness as he's coming over there, not to step out of bounds, catch it, reach it over. And then obviously you got to love the execution on the dance as well.
100%. I mean, I was talking to Ashton, before the podcast about the awareness that OBJ has had over the last several weeks, just becoming a Rams fan. Like, this guy was coming in thinking that he was a toxic player, and this guy's awareness that he's brought to this team, and his ability to what seems to be like he is a team player for the Rams. A few weeks ago when he ran backwards to get out of bounds so that he kept the clock running, that awareness of knowing where he needs to go and what he needs to do for the Rams to succeed and get the victory is great. And I can forgive him if he missed a route, because again, he's only 6 or 7 weeks into this system. I can forgive those things, but his awareness when he does get the ball is just unlike anyone else. It's almost like if we didn't have Cup, his awareness is what we would be looking at more than Cup's. But I could go into Cup for all day about his physical awareness.
Yeah, I totally agree with you.
And that was where we got Cup's like dipping and dodging move, where he gets like 5 to 7 yards, and then all of a sudden he swings back. Instead of going out of bounds, he swings back in when the defenders thought he was going that way, and picked up like 15 more yards. Like, that was just unbelievable what he was able to do there.
I know. I mean, you gotta love Cooper Kupp and everything that he does, everything he knows. He's a very selfless type of player as well. I mean, he fooled me that he was going out of bounds too. And when you fool me or fans, then you know that you got the defender as well. I think even though he may not be the fastest player in the league, the playmaking ability that he has is just like no other.
It was unreal. Like, apparently the 35-yard pass throw, that one was to Jefferson. He talked to McVay about that play. He saw something in that defense that was like, oh, I think we can do a little bit of a deep ball, and it worked to perfection. His awareness, the amount of effort that he puts into this team. I'm going to say this week in and week out. He is an MVP candidate and needs to keep being pushed into that category. Not just what we see him play as far as his position, but what he does to make this team so successful.
Yeah, I completely agree. When I saw that he recommended that play, or he saw something in the defense to help, call that play, I was impressed, but at the same time, I was not surprised. Like, this is the type of player he is, and he's a smart player. He reads the defenses like a quarterback, which is really valuable for a wide receiver. It's just crazy everything that he's been able to do. Because I think for all Rams fans who have seen him throughout his career with us, we all knew that he was really, really good and that he was a very underrated receiver. I think a lot of the world didn't really know that, just because he wasn't putting up tons of crazy numbers and everything like that. They a lot of the times would just see him as a good slot receiver. But I think seeing what he has with Stafford this year, the chemistry and all of that, and then you really get to see he's lining everywhere up in the offense. He's doing everything really, really well for us when he's not even just lining up at the wide receiver position only. So I think he just does so many things well, and I'm so glad to have him on our team.
For sure. And we knew the Rams were trying to kind of clean up that clock at the very end, but
Hmm.
they get the TD in with 57 seconds and you're like, "Oh, no, we're just all thinking we got
Hmm.
Justin Tucker. Justin Tucker's all in the back of our minds cuz he hit that 66, 67 yard
Yeah.
um earlier this season, and you're just like, if they get anywhere near that 50-yard line, we like
Yeah.
it's over. And um lucky for us, our defense held. As Ashton was mentioning, getting those big sacks at the very end was clutch into our victory. So again, our defense pulled up, and brought their A game this week.
Yeah, and like when I was really nervous about Tucker, I was like, this guy could probably make it from the 40 on their own side of the field. Like, I just don't want him anywhere near it. And I was just, so nervous. But then when I saw Von Miller get that sack, I was like, okay, I feel pretty good that we're going to win now. I'm not sure if, like, I wasn't sure if they're going to try to go for a deep route to try to get the pass interference, get him in range.
Mhm.
And then you talk about that big play by Donald, just like smashing the heck out of, I think it was Marquise Brown on that lateral play. I mean, the defense just definitely stepped up.
For sure, for sure. And they keep stepping up every week. And I think all Rams fans were kind of we weren't really looking forward to the Raheem Morris defense, and I think it did struggle maybe a little bit to find what it was going to be, but they quickly adjusted. And I couldn't be more proud of our defense. I mean, we have the stars. We needed to
Hmm.
show that we were a top three defense.
Yeah, and like coming into the year, I had them pegged probably like a top 10 defense. I didn't think we'd repeat at number one because that's just so rare to see. Even if we kept everybody, it's just rare to see that. Um, with Raheem Morris, that's what I was expecting. The things that would frustrate me was when you would see guys like Leonard Floyd covering Debo Samuel, or just the players that aren't really supposed to be covering certain top tier players, or like having Ramsey on a running back. That type of stuff kind of bothered me, but I think the way he's been able to evolve and adjust in what he needs to do has been really cool to see, because that would be one of the most frustrating things to me is it's like, oh, we have all these top tier playmakers, but we're just letting any offense go down the field. So it's been really nice to see that development and the growth between them, because you got to give them time, obviously, but it can get frustrating after a while of seeing things week in and week out. So I'm just glad we made those
Yeah,
adjustments.
you gotta stop
For
throwing
sure, for sure.
Ramsey on a blitz, a basic linebacker blitz, and then having no one covering Debo Samuel in like 40 yards down the field. That kind of stuff can basically burn you pretty badly, and it did.
Hmm.
And I'd be fine doing that once in a while, having a Ramsey blitz to get them, to get them in there and just to kind of trick them up a little bit. But let's not do this, 3, 4, 5 times
Yeah.
a
Hmm.
game. To kind of finalize the game up a little bit, final game time stats. Again, it what was it really in the Rams' favor? Time of possession was 26 and a half minutes for the Rams, 33 and a half minutes for the Ravens. Turnovers, Rams 3, Ravens 2. Yards, Rams had 373, Ravens 370 or 327, and then first downs, Rams 20, and then Rams 19.
Oh yeah, I think like when you're looking at the stats and everything, and even probably looking at the first three quarters of the game, to be honest, you would think that the Rams didn't win this game. But again, it's about the team football that you play. Even if one phase is lacking, the others pick you up. I think that's what we really saw. And I think the toughness and the resilience on that last drive that we put in on the offense really showcased our mental toughness and everything on how we can respond despite having the day like that for sure.
Yeah, I really think it just comes down to Stafford is clutch in the fourth quarter, and I feel like he has been the best QB in the fourth quarter. Now, if he can limit the turnovers and limit the mistakes and stop this Jekyll and Hyde type of way of like coming out very slowly in the first half, it just makes it where you're not digging yourself in a hole.
Hmm.
I feel like this Rams team, the entire season, has been them multiple games digging themselves in holes, and most of the time they get out of them, right? But sometimes they haven't. And in the playoffs, if you go to Lambeau and you throw pick six, we're probably not going to win that game, no matter how
Hmm.
hard you try, because the guy on the other side of the field will definitely take care of the ball. And I almost don't expect him to make any mistakes. So you got to be perfect when you want to beat one of the best. And I think we definitely have the potential to do that.
Yeah, I mean, when with a guy like Rogers, like you were talking about, he's a guy who rarely makes any mistakes. He barely throws any interceptions. He's seen it all, and he knows how defenses play really, really well. And so, yeah, I had completely agree with you. We got to clean those things up. I know that we can. I think the first half of the season, we really saw what this team could be like when we were playing clean football. And I think we just got to get back to that. Whatever we need to do, whatever adjustments we need to make, um, I think that's what we need to do down the stretch.
So just as an Aaron Rodgers stat comparison to Stafford, Aaron Rodgers has only thrown 3 pick sixes in his entire career, his
Jeez.
entire NFL career, and Matthew Stafford has thrown 4 this season.
Yeah, that's not good. And
No, so definitely cleaning up that ball game is something that we're definitely going to need to work on. Stafford, hold on to the ball, take the sack rather than, you know, throw it down. Let punt it away if we have to, but
mhm,
let's not give them easy points. Let them
yeah.
earn those points because if you look at all the field goals that the defense held them to, how many points would they have scored? Like how many more points would they have now if all those were touchdowns instead of field goals? I mean, you're in the
Mhm.
upper 30s if you're going that route.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, I completely agree with you.
So kind of going into the offensive highlights of the game, we've been talking about Stafford, continued his, three turnovers in this game. He was 26 for 35, 309 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions in that. And then we talked about the fumble. Um, Again, don't probably need to go much more into that. OBJ, becoming that team player, within 6 weeks, 5 carries, 39 yards, 1 TD, came in for that clutch 4th and 5 in the end zone, which we kind of discussed. Just his awareness is something that it's hard for most players, and you can look on any NFL team, and there's a whole bunch of talented receivers who can catch a ball, but having that awareness of knowing what to do with the ball after the fact is something that a lot of those especially young receivers don't have.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, I completely agree.
Um,
Go
I
ahead.
I think a big thing about OBJ and what some national broadcasters who love to hate on him won't say, a lot of reasons, at least the last two games, why he hasn't been getting big yardage isn't necessarily because he isn't getting open or running great routes. Like he's been doing his job for 4 quarters, last two games, very
Mhm.
well. It's been almost entirely because Stafford in the first half misses him on some big plays or some really really easy receptions. So for the most part, he's been doing what we brought him in to do. We didn't bring him in to be wide receiver 2. That's what he's turned into, but we didn't bring him in to do that. That wasn't the job. He was supposed to be a really good red zone target, be a very good wrinkle in this Sean McVay offense and have him and Robert Woods kind of play off of each other. He's had to take a bigger role, which to his credit, he's done a great job doing.
Yeah, and I think those misses to him, especially when you took a look at in the Vikings game with Stafford missing him, he could have had a huge game. But I think one of the things that he's also doing that goes unnoticed, which is kind of comparable to Aaron Donald, is he, even if he's not getting the ball or getting targets or anything like that, he's opening up other guys and other opportunities for the other guys, because with the type of player that Odell is, I mean, you say his name, you know who he is, and you know he's a threat. And so I think defenses a lot of times are trying to take him away. Even if, the focus is on Cup, sometimes you can't take him away because we move him around everywhere, so you can't really take him away every snap. So I think Odell can be opening things up for these other guys, and that's similar to what Aaron Donald does well. Like, some people are like, well, he's not that good of a player anymore because he doesn't get all these sacks or anything, but it's not about that. It's about the impact he's making. And the pressures obviously are there, the sacks are still there, but I think that he also opens up the game for other guys to get sacks and have good years as well. And I think that's just kind of the effect we're seeing with Odell. But yeah, no doubt, I think if Stafford isn't missing him as much, he could be having some bigger games.
Yeah, and I mean, and we've heard it. OBJ is rooting for Cooper Cup. He's rooting
Hmm.
for him to get to win those yardage goals and take over the crown from some of the former wide receivers, and he's all in for it. And that's why I said
Hmm.
he seems like such a team player, and so the atmosphere he must have been on all these other teams just wasn't clicking with him. Like, it must not
Yeah.
have been these tight joint teams where they're all playing for each other. It's the we not me mentality, and he had to know that
Hmm.
going into this.
Yeah, I completely agree.
So, continuing on, let's talk about Cup because you mentioned them a little bit earlier. OBJ wanting Cup to break 2K, and do you guys think Cup will break 2K this next game?
I mean, I it's hard to tell. I think when you're playing a team like the 49ers who know you pretty well, when you're playing a team who I believe they won 5 in a row versus us, and you just want to be able to beat them going into the playoffs, I don't think the focus is on getting Cup, getting that record or getting to 2,000 yards. And I think the Rams will definitely be trying to involve him. They'll try to help him into that. But in my opinion, I think there's way bigger things to worry about. Not being able to beat this team five consecutive times, they haven't been able to beat them. I think the focus is more about the team. Obviously, it always should be, but I think it'd be a different story if we were playing a team like the Texans or the Lions or the Jets, where you're not as worried about being beaten and having to game plan hard, because we have to acknowledge the 49ers know us and they've been playing us really well, no matter who they have at quarterback, no matter who they have on their roster. So I think that Cup still has a very Cup type of day, but I don't know if he goes to 2,000 yards as much as I would like him to.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of yardage. He's at 1,829 at the moment. If you go back to the game against the 49ers earlier in the season, he had 11 receptions for 122 yards. So, if he has the same game as he had last time, he doesn't quite make it. But again, he's kind of even come out to say recently that you know he, saying he broke records when they added another game isn't quite fair to those people who did it sooner than he did.
Hmm.
And that's just another, like, this team is not really. I mean, I think there's players who are rooting Cup on, but I don't think it's their number one priority to make sure he wins all of these awards or whatever. Like, this is a team focused on, we need to take care of business, we need to get to the number 2 seed, we need to take care of the West, and then we can move on from there.
Hmm.
Yeah, I agree with that.
The other two notes to really mention is Sony Michelle continuing to grind that ball. 19 carries, 74
Hmm.
yards, and one touchdown.
Yeah, and again, I think he's just the right running back for what we're doing right now. In my opinion, he, as well as the defense, I think the defense deserves it more. But I think Michelle is one of the biggest reasons with how many wins we were getting in December, going undefeated in December. I think that's really when we saw our identity starting to come out in the use of him. I think he just provides such a threat to people. I don't think people even want to tackle him with the type of player that he is, and the way his play style and the hard running, physical running. And again, he could be stopped maybe like at the line of scrimmage, and he pushes ahead for another 3-4 yards. And guys, the offensive line, they've said it before, they love to block for a guy like that. I think he has been a reason for the stability on our offense, and not just the sole reason for it, but I think he's been helping out a lot in that case. And I was happy to see him down that stretch of that game. Just even throughout the game, the Ravens are the number one rush defense in the NFL, and he was still creating some runs there against the number one defense. Sure, he was stuffed a few times. Sure, he wasn't having the best runs, but what do you expect when you're playing a defense like that? So I was happy with that production he had.
Yeah, definitely great production against a great running defense, and you got to take it in that context. And this is one of those games I would have been fine if McVay decided to go for like 3 pass plays in a row in the red zone. You kind of expect the need to do that against a team like this. It's not the same context of like last week we do what 6 passing plays in the red zone in a row against a defense that struggled against the run, and we were getting 6-7 yards a pop. Like you got to look at stuff in a context. And Michelle, he's done a great job against bad defenses and good defenses, and I think that's kind of the quality in what we really needed from our run game to get our offense going. And that's been the reason why our offense has done better in the second half, I believe, is building on that run from the first half.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, makes total sense.
All right, guys, let's go into halftime and just break down some Rams news. Uh, so basically, the playoff picture is pretty simple when it comes to winning the number 2 seed, guys. All we have to do is win the next game for Niners, and we win our division, and we win the 2 seed. It's as simple as that. Um, the other kind of potential playoff picture, it could end up we could end up being the 3rd seed if we lose to the 49ers and the Buccaneers win, and the Cowboys end up losing. So there's different ways that could kind of work out. The 49ers could be who we play at 6, depending on if the what Saints lose, and then also there's a lot of different stuff that could go into it. We could end up being the 4th seed if we lose to the 49ers, but the Cardinals also lose, and the Buccaneers and Cowboys win. So when looking at the seeding, what are you guys kind of looking for in I know we want the 2 seed, but do you think if we end up getting that 2 seed, even if we lose and we play the 49ers, do you think that's very desired? Because if the Bucks lose and also the Cowboys lose, we would still be the 2 seed, and the Cardinals lose.
I mean, in my opinion, do whatever you can not to play the Niners in the playoffs. That's my opinion. I mean, the first round, whoever we end up playing, I think we can definitely beat. I definitely think this is a team that can beat any team. It's just really about how we execute. Um, for me, it's just whoever you just got to do your best not to play the 49ers, because even if we win this game versus them, which I'm confident that we can, I think you just don't want to play them in the playoffs. They know us. They've played us really tough, really well. And then the other priority, obviously, is trying to get the home field advantage. Obviously, the Packers got the number 1 seed, but you can still do your job to be able to get home field advantage as long as you don't play the Packers. So that's my thing. I just don't want to play the Niners.
Yeah, it's one of those tricky things where would you rather play the Niners or the Cardinals? And I guess it depends on who's going to be QB1 for the Niners. I mean, it looks like that all signs point to Garoppolo making his return, even with a damaged finger, and that always seems to be a bad sign for the Rams when Garoppolo plays. But at the same time, do I really want to face? Do I really want to face Murray either?
Yeah.
It's kind of one of those, I can't decide between those two teams. The other ones I could kind of, pick and choose what I want, but I really don't want to face either one of the ones in the
It
West. those are tough games to begin with, and having to face an opponent 3 times in a season is
It
just
would be
hard.
very poetic and very
Mhm.
nice if our first win against them knocks them out of the playoffs. At the same time, we don't have to see them again,
Mhm.
and we get someone like the Eagles. I think that would be kind of a dream sequence. While the Eagles are a really good pass defense and a really good running team, which sounds very much like the 49ers, I feel like the Eagles could present us some troubles, but ultimately, the 49ers know us so well, it doesn't matter how good or bad they are in a relative season. They just play us so hard, and I feel like it's their Super Bowl whether or not they're going to the playoffs or not. And you add in the fact that their playoff berth is potentially on the line. Um, Zach, this is one of those things that it's a must win for them almost, and they don't want to leave it up to fate, and they will definitely have a lot of motivation.
For sure, yeah. I mean, they want to be in the playoffs just as much as, we want to be number 2 seed, and so, they're gonna continue on and fight.
Mhm.
All right. So on other news, AT&T Stadium is now being lined up as a potential backup Super Bowl location if COVID derails the Super Bowl and SoFi. Guys, I would be very sad if SoFi is not the host of the Super Bowl. Especially, I feel like that's the most Rams thing to ever happen is if we go all the way to the Super Bowl
Yeah.
just to have it like the week before be like, oh no, it's gonna be played at the Cowboys now. It's like, ah, lovely.
Yeah.
But surely they would have to have that planned out very quickly. I mean, geez, I mean, how much it takes to get a Super Bowl town ready. I had the luxury of getting it, when it was here hosted in Indianapolis, and like the amount of money that comes into these cities and all the promises that are getting made, and all the hotels being reserved and the flights booked and all these other things, and then a week later saying, we're gonna move it to a completely different city, in a
Mhm.
different time zone. Man, I know they have these things for just in case of emergency situations. Like, this isn't the first time they've had a backup location in mind, but man, to do it in a short window would take almost a miracle itself without pushing it back even farther, which I guess is potential. They could move the Super Bowl back if they had to.
Yeah, I mean, I was so excited coming into the season knowing that it would be at our stadium. It feels like it's been forever since that's happened. But I was like, of course I had to be Dallas, but I mean, as long as it doesn't happen, I'll be fine. I like you said, it's happened in the past where they have the backups and stuff. So just hopefully nothing ends up making it where we actually have to play there. Because I'm confident we can go to that Super Bowl, and if we can get the home field advantage there, that would be awesome.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it's just in the news because COVID's is all around us, and so
Yeah,
when they say backup, we have to have a backup because COVID, then we have to make
yeah,
a big deal about it.
Hmm.
yeah, exactly. Nothing's finalized yet. It's just the backup.
Okay, guys, let's go into quarter three and talk about some defensive highlights. Let's start off with the big elephant in the room: Ramsey versus Rap. Ramsey slaps Rap after the first drive. It was blown out of proportion. I feel like a lot of the media just wanted something to talk about.
Hmm.
Ramsey is a very emotional player, and let's be honest, Rap does do silly things from time to time. What are your guys' kind of reaction to the beef beef that went on?
Yeah,
Well,
go ahead.
no, when I was, I'm watching it from my home. I know you were at the stadium, so you have a different perspective for it. But watching it from home, I noticed something weird, and then they go back to the huddle, and then all of a sudden you hear a whistle, and then the announcer is like, directing over. It looks like there's like a little fight between the defensive players. And you're like, what is going on? And then you see the last second like jab to the face mask, in open palm, not like he was throwing a punch. It was more just like, what were you thinking? Kind of a thing. And it was unfortunate that it was caught on camera, and they did it while they were on the field instead of having a discussion afterwards. But these guys are professionals; they get paid to do this. And so, obviously we don't want to see that on the field, and that could have deteriorated the defense even more. But we saw that they held, they bent quite a bit, but they never broke, which is the most important thing you can ask for.
Yeah, I think for me, like you guys were talking about, it was blown out of proportion. Um, it was really weird to see with that, but like obviously when you have competitors like this, guys who get really into the game, you'd expect this eventually. It's definitely really weird. Like I said in one of my videos, I think it's weird to see out of a Rams team because of the culture that we have that we've established, but it's just, you move on from it. It's not like it was a whole fight that broke out. It was just like one little thing there. Obviously, you don't want to see that ever again, but I I didn't see this as like a huge threat or that we're melting down or anything like that.
Yeah, definitely a very silly thing. People saying the entire Rams team is melting down. Like, calm down. We're 12-4. We're not like six. We're not 6-10 and having our teammates fight each other. Let's kind of dig into the D
Um,
line. I think the majority of the defensive highlights can come down to our defensive line being very dominant this entire game. I mean, we didn't have huge flashy plays because really the Ravens never really tried to throw downfield a lot. It was a majority like very run heavy, short passing game. And Donald, Miller, Floyd. I believe we had 5 sacks on the day, just dominant defensive line play. The way Miller had the game-ending sack, there's a good video him talking about. I believe it's called a phantom block. Kind of method of how he gets underneath and goes around defenders,
hmm.
or sorry, O linemen, and he got the sack that way. I mean, really, really, I'm really happy to see the fact that he's growing into our system and we're finally seeing Von Miller make huge plays.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I agree with you. Like I was talking about earlier, I think when we got that sack late, I was like, okay, I think that we're good now. I think we won the game, and that's it's like what we were talking about with Odell. Whether he's putting up huge stats or not, he's making an impact. And when you're counting on the players that you trade for, like the Rams did with Miller, and then obviously signing OBJ, I think you expect them to make those plays when it really matters in the big moments, and that's what we saw from both those guys. So very happy to see that, not only because it helped us win the game, but I'm sure it was cool for them as well.
yeah. I think Gaines would have been a lot quicker, and would have got to the quarterback a little bit faster if his hand wasn't broken. I know it has nothing to do with
Yeah.
his running capability, but dude was playing injured, um, and even had to sit out for the last at least the last half of the fourth quarter. Um, but man, Greg freaking Gaines, he's becoming a monster of itself, and it just feels like our front line is just made of monsters, and it's really hard. Even Obo, when he comes in, he does his
Mhm.
job well as a rotational piece. Like it's just great to see all those guys like being a strong front, that we can rely on week to week. Even when our offense may not be clicking on all cylinders right off the bat, we
Mhm.
know that our defense has that capability to keep them fresh and keep them in the game.
Yeah, the front can determine a lot in a game, and I think we have the one who can really take over in the playoffs, and hopefully that ends up happening because I definitely think they're a huge difference maker with the type of guys we have.
Yeah, this is the all-star team. Like, this is the team you want to see, going in the playoffs.
Hmm.
So I'm really looking forward to see them continue that streak.
For sure.
All right, guys, let's go into quarter four and go ahead and talk about the 49ers versus Rams game. Of course, we have lost the last 5 games. Rams house. This is the last game of the regular season. What exactly are you looking for the Rams to approach this game differently than the last 5 times that we have lost, and we have lost in a very like different amount of ways. We've lost in high shootouts, we've lost in low scoring brawls.
Mhm.
Like, how do you see this game going, and how do you think we can approach it differently to finally get that dub?
Well, yeah, I think this has obviously been shown historically for a tough matchup for us, no matter who's out there. I think last year we saw it with Nick Mullins, like when we were playing him, he was able to beat us. I think for me, the number one thing that we need to see and that we have been seeing recently with this Rams team is stopping the run, because no matter if it's Trey Lance playing or if it's Jimmy Garoppolo playing, I do think if you eliminate the run game on any team, that makes it hard for them to win, especially when they're playing a front like ours. But when you're playing a team specifically like the 49ers, the run game is how they win games, at least for right now. They love to control the possession, the time of possession. They love to tire out defenses, grind out the games, and then when they're passing the ball, they like to hit those quick plays, or the 5 yard and in routes, or they love to do things that way, and so you get tired and they can move down the field, and then that in turn helps the defense rest. So I think for the Rams, and what we really saw last time when we played them before our rush defense really improved, they were able to run all over us, do whatever they wanted, and they barely even passed the ball. When they did, it was just the quick stuff, and that completely exhausted us. And the turnovers were coming. It just felt like left and right from us. And so I think you can't get down early, and I don't think that we will. I think we got to just start off by establishing the run with Michelle, and then get those pass plays going, get that going. Don't turn the ball over, and I think stopping the run is a key. If we let the 49ers, I'm going to say it right now, if we let them go over 100, 150 yards, I don't think we win this game.
Yeah, I was looking up the stats from last game. They had 156 rushing yards,
Jeez.
156 yards, and we had 52. Daryl Henderson had the most carries, 5 for 31 yards, and then so did Michelle, 4 for 20 yards. So we definitely were very pass heavy. 41 pass attempts by Stafford. Um,
Jeez.
Again, it was another good game for Cooper Kupp, in stats for the most part. But again, that was just in reception and yards. He didn't get a touchdown that game.
Mhm.
They spread it out as far as their rushing went. Mitchell went for 27 carries for 91 yards, and then they used Debo as kind of like that other running back, even though he's a receiver, and went 5 carries for 36 yards, doing jet sweeps, going from one side of the field, and then they went to the other side of the field, and he was given 7.2 yards every time he got the ball.
Yeah, I think the way that the 49ers offense works, if we can stop that run, shut it down, or even just hold them to like 30, 40 yards, we definitely come out with a win. We also can't let Debo get going either.
Yeah, the biggest focus should be stopping the run, and then secondary shutting down Debo. And if you do those two things, the chances the 49ers win, it it's going to be very low, but we haven't been able to do that. So hopefully hopefully he stops overthinking stuff, because I feel like sometimes we get put in holes in these 49er games because Sean McVay just wants to enforce his will, and Shanahan is smart enough to know what McVay likes to do, and McVay is too stubborn to want to change it. And he's like, "Oh, you're not going to stop me from throwing
Hmm.
40 times this game." And then he just forces it, and we don't have Aaron Rodgers. We can't do that, and hopefully that's evolution we see from Sean McVay this time, is a little bit more balance. And the times we have almost beaten the 49ers are when we've taken a more balanced approach to it.
Hmm.
It also helps if our receivers catch the ball, because last game it felt like we had 20
That's true.
drops, like 20 drops. Van Jefferson, I think,
Hmm.
dropped a 20-yarder. I remember that specifically. Just some big drops, and can't do that against a team this talented. And it feels like the 49ers choose to play like the 85 Bears on defense, and uh the Green Bay Packers on offense, and we got to be on our P's and Q's if we want to pull it out.
Hmm. Yeah, like one of the turnovers that we had, I believe it was a pick six, was because it was a dropped pass. It was a throw on a screen to Higby, and it went right out of his hands into Jimmy Ward's hands, and he took it to the house. We can't make those little mistakes either because they'll come back to bite us.
Yeah, I mean that one wasn't. I don't really feel it was Stafford's fault. That was more of a Higby
No.
should have caught that and brought it in, and that was definitely on Higby's fault. But yeah, no, agree. They need to get their hands on the ball, keep grip, and move forward.
Hmm.
Any kind of 2 minute warning? Any type of any closing remarks? We may get KM Akers back, maybe, possibly.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. I was actually just looking on the Rams Twitter, and they're posting that he's expected to play, and they're doing like the little hype reels and stuff like that. So for me, I think if you see him, obviously it's impressive what he's done to be able to come back. I think if you see him and he's not doing things very well, he's not running very well, you obviously can just go back to Michelle, which is a good luxury that we have there. But I think that we ease him in kind of slowly. But I like the more and more I'm hearing about it, the more excited I'm getting for Cam Akers.
Hmm. As long as
Ashton, what
it's
about
being
you?
done with his, as long as it's being done with his health first, and I believe the team is, with that caveat, I actually feel like he's only going to get 5 or 6 carries, right? But I feel like he could pop a big one.
Yeah, I agree.
It's it. I really do
Mm,
think he'll pop like a 30 or 40 yarder. I if he's coming back, he must be showing something in practice, saying that he has that burst, that he still has that energy. I just don't see why you would bring
true.
a running back who was injured in the offseason back for your last game if he's not 100% or not showing that burst. Like, to me, that doesn't make a lot of sense, and risk that re-injury
Hmm.
when he could possibly not do much for you. So I think he's going to have more burst than people expect. And, you know, we haven't seen a running back with his type of injury in the NFL modernly, especially come back the how quickly he did. So it'll be interesting to see how he does, and if he does do well, man, modern medicine is crazy, and Cam Akers' will to come back is crazy, and it's just a miracle for him. And hopefully he stays healthy for a playoff run if he is coming back and gonna see significant snaps.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
I'm
completely
guessing he's
agree. I
going to
think.
be. No, go
No,
ahead.
go ahead.
You're good. Oh, I was just gonna
Oh,
say,
I
I
was
think
gonna
he's gonna
say.
be used very minimally. Oh, sorry, we're overstepping each other. I think
No,
he's
you're
gonna be used a
good.
little minimally. Um, you know, I feel like he's gonna be used minimally. It's gonna be one of those things where I think he's gonna be out maybe he's gonna be out there maybe 5 or 6 times. I
Hmm.
honestly think maybe run once and maybe be more of a position more towards the wideout, start off, as a protector or as a runner, and then moved out to the wideout to be more, just to give Stafford a little bit more weapons when he is passing the ball. So that's
Hmm.
kind of where I see him. I don't see him as going to be much of a pass blocker for this game.
No.
I just would want to use him very cautiously.
Yeah. Like easing him back into it, I think is the best way to go for sure.
Mm.
All right, you want to do predictions?
I had in my prediction video, I had the Rams winning 24-13. That's not to say that it's an easy win, but I think we really start to pull away probably near the third and fourth quarter, and I think our defense steps up in a big way.
Ashton, what about you?
Ooh. Let's see. I have the Rams winning 24-23 in a nail biter.
Ooh, nice close one.
Nice. Yeah, my prediction is 20-34 Rams.
Nice.
I do
I'll
feel like
take
they're going to
that.
make a comeback.
Ooh, yeah.
All right. Well, I think that about does it for this week's episode of the East Coast Rams podcast. You can always send questions and feedback to feedback@eastcoastrams.com or hit us up on Twitter. I'm at Zach Mayer, and Ashton's at RamsFan Ashton1. And a big shout out to our special guest, David Hamlin, with Rams House. You can follow him at Rams House 2 or his YouTube channel. Do you want to promote that a little bit?
Yeah, so I just do all things covering the Rams, whether it's game previews, reactions to different things, signings, trades, whatever is about the Rams. That's what I'm going to be talking about with you guys. I appreciate you guys having me on so much. It's been a pleasure to talk Rams with you guys.
Pleasure all ours. It's great to have you on here.
Thank you so much.
Ashton, you want add anything final?
No, thank you so much for being on here, Rams House. I thought it was a really great conversation, and hopefully we can win the 2 seed. If you had told me at the beginning of the season, you would be what, 13-4 and have the 2 seed, I would not complain at all. So hopefully they can go out there and finally get that monkey off
No
their
way.
back. That way, going into the playoffs, Stafford can get that monkey off his back and get his first playoff win. So we can stop hearing everyone just use that against them.
I completely agree. Thank you guys so much.
All right, well, let's finish up by claiming the West, Ramley. Horns
Yeah,
up.
let's do it.